Good morning. Today is Sunday, April 16th, 2023. My name is Rebecca Gilbert, and this is my Coming to Path talk. When Truman asked me not that long ago, like a couple of weeks ago, if I'd be willing to give this talk, I froze. It's been a long journey of recovery, and I felt worried about what it would be like to go back in my thoughts and revisit all the suffering that led me to the Dharma. 24 years have passed since I found my way to the Zen Center here. And I said yes because I thought it might be helpful for people to hear and understand, a little bit like you're not the only one who's gone through some things that I've gone through. And I thought it would be also, I was curious to see what wisdom I would understand better now, looking back. It's been a long time since I thought about these events. And so here I am, and I hope it's helpful. So I entitled this talk, The Layering of Suffering. First noble truth is all life is suffering. And I'm going to just try and describe some of the layers from my life that I thought drew me here. Starting with my early family life and college, grad school, and then finally what it was like when I finally came to the Zen Center. I was born in 1966 to teenage parents at an Army base in Shirley, Massachusetts. My dad joined the Army as a college dropout when the news of my mother's unexpected pregnancy changed both of their courses. My mother dropped out of college at the same time, and they quickly got married, thinking that the military would be the fastest way for my father to secure an income to support his wife and child. Dropping out of college was not a big sacrifice to either one of them because my parents' families are rooted in rural Wisconsin, farming communities, and there was little expectation for anybody to go to college. Most people just, continued the family business, farming, or worked in factories. The only person on either side of my family who went to college was my maternal grandfather, who became a high school biology teacher and athletics coach. My dad, on my dad's side of the family, his father worked as a laborer in a playground equipment factory, Harley Davidson. He worked for Harley Davidson, and then he also worked for his dad's painting business. His dad had a painting business. My grandmother on my dad's side was a sales lady at Sears and Roebuck. My grandfather died at the age of 54 of colon cancer and left my grandmother a widowed mom of 3. My dad was the youngest. And so I never knew him, I never knew my grandfather, but I loved my grandmother. She was so joyful. I don't know. We loved being with her. She loved us. It was so free, the joy she had. She had wisdom from all of that, raising those kids by herself. And my dad and his siblings grew to adulthood and had married and had children right in the same small community in Wisconsin. So we all gathered together, for birthdays, anniversaries, all the holidays. We were together a lot when I was young. On my mom's side, my mom lived her life as an only child in the shadow of her older brother's death. Her brother was disabled with cerebral palsy, possibly caused by oxygen deprivation during a long and arduous labor and delivery. When I spoke to her about this just a couple days ago, she said she thinks the doctor could have intervened with a C-section. His name was David. Her brother's name was David. He lived in a nursing home And my grandparents visited him on holidays, just very rarely, and my mother was never allowed to meet him or see him. She says she really remembers I said, did your parents ever talk to you about it? No, they never talked to her about it. But she was very aware of the pain that they suffered. He died at the age of 16. He was 16 years old when he died, and she said he choked to death on his tongue during an unattended seizure. And she says they never spoke to her about her brother or their pain, but she remembers learning of his death because she answered the door when the police officer came to the house to tell them. They were staying at a cottage that didn't have a telephone, so the police officer had to come to the door and tell them the news, and my mother answered the door, so she really remembers this. I think we absorb a lot of our parents' suffering without knowing it at the beginning in our early lives, and I know I did. My parents are alcoholics. We lived in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, the beer capital of the world. When I was in elementary school, the big school trip was to the Pabst Brewery, and we couldn't wait to taste the beer at the end, although it was root beer. But, this is German. I mean, I don't have to tell many of you. I know many of you came here from Wisconsin. It's ironic, sidebar, I've never been to Madison, weirdly enough. But it's a German, my family are German heritage, German immigrants from long, we checked on at Ellison Island, but they didn't come through, they came through before Ellison Island. My best friend owned one of the 3 taverns in the small town that we lived in, and heavy drinking at every family gathering was just the norm. It was mostly out of celebration, but also it was a way to escape the suffering, the pain and suffering, and to take the edge off. I remember, weddings, people would have a shot before taking their vows, or especially at funerals, there's a lot of drinking to try and numb the pain. To say my parents' marriage was strained would be an understatement. They fought a lot, and sometimes viciously. Neither had healthy communication skills, and the drinking made things often much worse. I remember my dad striking my mother once, and he would often leave the house in anger. And most times he would go to a bar, to the local tavern to cool off. My mother once pleaded with me to call the tavern to ask him to come home. And to say I was conflicted about that would be an understatement too. But I didn't know what to do. I wanted to help her. I wanted some kind of resolution, and I didn't want him to abandon us. The tension between them vacillated between lashing anger and just simmering frustration all the time. Even in even today, they're still like that. For me, the 5 o'clock cocktail was a moment to look forward to because the texture of their interactions would smooth out a bit, at least for a while. But by the end of the night, the arguing could escalate, and I would remember going to bed with the sounds of their violent words and just fearful of my dreams that would echo with my fears and the confusion that I felt. And to self-soothe, I had this mantra. I would repeat the words, not there, not there, not there, not there. And this would help me ease into sleep. My mother was raised Lutheran, and my father was raised in a Methodist tradition. And they chose to give us our early religious education in the Methodist tradition. We didn't go to church until it was time for us to be confirmed. I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me. And at that point, we started going to church so we could be enrolled in these catechism classes. And while we went to catechism, my parents would go to the tavern where the local farmers brought their eggs to sell. So we would have eggs for breakfast that day, and they would often hang out there, till catechism was over, and sometimes with the local Catholic priest who was also there coming in for eggs after giving his mass. And at this time I started singing in the church choir. Singing in the church choir was my first deeply spiritual experience. I wrote about it in a Zenbo article years ago. I still feel a deep spiritual affinity for the sound, resonance of vibration, breath, our bodies. When we chant together here, I cry almost every time. So powerful, heart-opening for me. I began playing the flute. I'm a flutist, and I began playing the flute about the same time, and I eventually found music to be a refuge in the emotionally chaotic world of my family. We moved from that small town in rural Wisconsin to a large metropolitan suburban community outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I almost quit music, playing the flute at this moment. It was the band program at the new school was not very good. My mother, in her wisdom, she recognized that this might be helpful for me to keep going with the music. And she found me a private teacher, which was great. This woman was amazing. She taught at Oral Roberts University. Oral Roberts University is a, Christian Pentecostal, probably. I don't even know if it's still there. But boy, this was an amazing campus. It was gilded in gold, literally. It was gold. Everything was painted in gold. And I think this relationship with this woman, who I'm still in touch with, she's an artist. She doesn't play the flute anymore. She's a painter and an artist. She was a real, just a real mentor in I don't even know how to put it into words. I don't know how to say it, but she was very, very patient and encouraging. Yeah, I think that was the thing, very positive. And I think I loved that feeling of, I could go there and I know that I would feel good. She was a person who made me feel really like myself. By this point, I'm moving into high school. I was a good student. I liked school. Again, I liked going to school because it was outside of my house and the stress of being in my family. I loved the simple affirmation of getting the answers right on an exam. I was valedictorian. My favorite classes were English and writing, humanities, and religion. I had a great religion teacher. I was fascinated by all the different ways you could engage with this mysteries of what are we doing here? What's the meaning of our lives and death, and what does it all mean? Most of my friends in high school went to a Southern Baptist Pentecostal church. It was a big church, almost seemed like the whole school was there. There was lots of music, lots of production. I felt drawn to the community that I felt when I went to the church with all my friends. And then during my senior year of high school, one of my classmates died of leukemia. I wasn't close to her, but at her memorial service, I just was so I could not understand, like the questioning of why did she die? What was the meaning of her life? She was so young, what was the meaning of all of us who remained? I mean, like, it seemed I had this sense of like, well, what am I, why do I get to stay? This deep question kind of got buried, over the years. I went to college. I studied music at Oklahoma State University. And again, I just loved the way I felt connected and felt like myself when I was playing music. And so my flute professor, she was a wonderful role model. I loved everything that she showed me about, you could live your life this way. You could go and play music and teach. And again, I saw something way outside of my family experience and even my life experience, and I was drawn to it, and I just kept following it, those instincts, following my gut. And so I threw myself into it. I went to master classes with teachers all over the country and in Europe, and I got to see more of the world than anybody in my family ever did. But the stress is still there, and by college I started using alcohol in a way that I was just using it. I didn't drink a lot in high school. It wasn't that in high school, but in college I started using it as a way to sort of help me, get over some of the anxiety that I was having. And then I had friends who were using other recreational drugs, and there'd be ways to really connect with your, higher power. And so tried cocaine and ecstasy and mushrooms and LSD, but all of it just made me feel very muddled and certainly not closer to resolving any of these questions. And then my grandfather died. I remember walking into the room and he was hours away from death, and it was the first time I'd been this close to it, and I was so paralyzed by the finality of it. I could see he was about to die. I could see it. I looked at him and I could see he's just about to die, and I was quite paralyzed by that. And then something happened that scared me more than anything else that had happened in my life so far. I was sexually assaulted. I was raped. It happened at a party following a college football game. And after that, the feelings of shame and rage and humiliation, it was so overwhelming. The next day, I remember speaking to my friend about it, and she said, I wanted to kill him. I was so angry. I wanted to confront him. And she encouraged me to say nothing and just try to forget about it. There's nothing you can do. We didn't even talk through the legal, process if I wanted to prosecute or anything like that. None of it. It's just let it go. Forget it. And I took her advice. I tried to. Now, all these other drugs didn't make a difference. They didn't really help me at all, but I did start smoking a lot of marijuana. It was a coping mechanism. It was better. It seemed less, I had less of a hangover if I was smoking marijuana and not drinking. And I went to grad school. I kept working on my music career. And my teacher at that time was an orchestra player, and I just fell in love with the orchestra. I played in a youth orchestra in high school. I fell in love with the sound of the string sound just enveloping you. It's like a huge blanket of comfort. And my teacher was an orchestra player, so I attached myself to that idea. I want to play in an orchestra, and it's a hard process winning an orchestra audition. I took dozens of auditions. But I didn't give up. It requires so much discipline, physical discipline with just playing the instrument, but also just mental conditioning that I worked on with my physical training, trying to work on releasing tension, which was not just about the music, it was about my life, right? Working on my diet, massage. And, the stronger I got in my body, the more confidence I got. And I thought that, I thought I was moving past these traumas that were laying latent in my unconscious. I thought that's what was happening, but it just kept piling on, right? My grandmother died. It was a peaceful death. She was in her sleep. But then a very close friend of mine, a classmate of mine, in graduate school, he died completely unexpectedly. He had a peanut allergy. He was traveling with the school orchestra in Europe, playing concerts with a group of friends, went out to eat at a Chinese restaurant, and the food was prepared with peanut oil. He went into he went into a seizure, and he died on the tube. He wasn't wearing a dog tag. He didn't have an EpiPen. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what was going on. And I just thrown into this state of what is happening? Why is this happening? Why him? He had just been married. He asked me before he left to check in on his wife because they were just brand new and they had just moved to the town that they were living in. We were all living in. At this point, there was I began to attach a lot of these feelings to specific pieces of music, and I remember listening to the Adagietto from one of the Mahler symphonies, I can't remember which one it was, over and over and over again, trying to find the answer in the music. Like, what is going on? Why did he have to die that way at that point in his life? Why? So I finally reached a point where I couldn't carry anymore, and I reached out to a friend who was studying psychiatry, and I got advice on how to find a therapist. She recommended I find a behavioral therapist, and so I did. And she said I should interview people. I did not. I was too desperate. I just took the person who answered my call first. She helped me quite a bit. I was able to confront the rapist. I worked on expressing the suffering of my early childhood in a few sessions with my parents. It was profoundly helpful. And then I won a job in an orchestra and had to move out of town. And I will never forget this therapist's words to me at our last session. She said, "Now you've done some good work. Now you're going to have to figure out your spiritual life." I remember it so well because it touched a nerve that I had been avoiding. The nerve of how very lost I felt. How I didn't know where to look for that. I couldn't stomach what my experience of Christianity was like. It didn't look good to me. I didn't feel any resonance with it. So the question remained at that point. I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I was playing principal flute in the Charleston Symphony there. I was still using alcohol and marijuana, not as much, but I was still using it. And I started having terrifying nightmares that I couldn't awaken from. I would, it was about somebody coming into my house. I could see the house. I was in this house in an upstairs bedroom, way away from the street. This person would come in the house and suffocate me. And then I would try to wake up, and I couldn't wake up. I would be paralyzed in bed. I couldn't breathe. And I don't know how long it lasted. Eventually, I took a breath somehow. But this was a recurrent nightmare. I told a friend about this, and she said, "Oh, I have a wonderful Jungian therapist. Maybe you'd like to see her." And I did. This was another very wise woman. And we worked on my dreams, and I became less afraid of interacting with this energy that was in my unconscious, and I started to develop a relationship with it, and it was a beginning. The same friend invited me to meditate with her. She had a meditation practice where she spoke to her guardian angels, and she used to have a pendulum, and she would use her pendulum to speak to the pendulum was supposed to measure and respond to magnetic or electromagnetic energy, and so she had this pendulum, and she used it to decide what she would eat sometimes, and she'd use it to communicate with this guardian angel. Well, I thought, okay, well, I didn't have a guardian angel, I didn't have a pendulum, but I liked meditating. We were good friends, and we exercised together, and she was a massage therapist. She was one of my massage therapists. So anyway, I felt close to her, and I trusted her. So I would meditate with her. It was like once a week or something like that. And then not that long after that, I won another job, and that was with the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. So I came to Rochester, and as I was preparing to come here, I spoke to I was invited to play as a substitute acting principal flute with the Boston Symphony. I was going to play there for the summer between when I left Charleston and came here. And my friend said, "Oh, there's a wonderful yoga center near Tanglewood. You should go to Kripalu. Go to Kripalu, get a massage, maybe take a yoga class, just go, see what it's like." So I did. And the yoga class, I've done some yoga, but not a lot. My yoga practice is much more developed now. But after the yoga class, there was a meditation. They led a 15-minute meditation. And this was, again, one of these touchstone experiences where I was like, oh my God, this is amazing to sit here in this energy with people, like-minded people. It was so like, oh, this might be it. I mean, I couldn't do it there. I didn't live there, but I thought, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll go to Rochester, and I'll see if I can find a sitting meditation group. That's what I'll do. So that was in 1996. It took 2 more years for me to find my way to the Rochester Zen Center. I only lived on Vic Park B, just 2 blocks away. But in those first 2 years, my focus was on the orchestra and the music. I wanted to get tenure. I still felt very vulnerable and emotionally fragile. I had done enough work on myself to know that there was a lot more to do, but I felt I couldn't risk distracting myself from getting the job. I didn't feel safe. I continued the body work, swimming. I started dancing. I had massage therapy, and I still was using, marijuana and alcohol to cope with the rest of the anxiety. When I finally came to my first workshop, the first person I met was Keith. Oh God, I was so terrified. terrified, and he just sat there in the link with me, talking the way he talked, and the way he still talks. It's very calm. From that first workshop, I remember so many things that seem to, I don't know if they're really from the workshop or if they've just been echoed so many times by Roshi, Bowden Roshi. He talked about monkey mind. I love this idea of monkey mind. I feel like at the time I was like, really? What's a monkey mind? What does that mean, actually? And now I'm like, oh my God, I like the monkey mind. That's all it is. It's like all the time, the monkey mind. I'm married now, and I have 2 beautiful sons, and I think, oh God, that's monkey mind right there. Those kids, their mind is just like, wow, all over the place. So, but that came from the workshop. He asked me, after I became a student, a formal student, which was pretty quickly after, I don't remember how long, actually, but it seemed quick, because as soon as I got here, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I love these people, I love the feeling in this building. I didn't feel like I struggled with sitting, because I had worked on so much different kinds of mental work to try and improve my concentration to be able to play in the orchestra. I didn't feel that, but I was terrified all the time. I couldn't have the stick. I remember my first sashimi, I said, no, I can't. Please don't hit me. Just don't. I can't take it. So that eventually went away. Hello, come back. There. Oh yeah, I have to talk about this. I forgot. More therapy. So, Roshi, I talked to him enough about my story that I think I asked him, I said, I don't know, I think I might need more therapy. And he said, okay, well, it can be very helpful. And he recommended a therapist in town who I am so grateful to have found. It's Davenlu therapy. Davenlu therapy is it's meant to be short-term, very I'm not going to say confrontational, but I just did. So confrontational, man, so like I went through this process where we started with my parents. It was really mostly my parents, and like, how deep are those feelings? Really digging into it, and a little bit of kind of role playing, and to the point.
One sec.
Yeah, I know. There's something going on with the phone. This thing. Stop. It's on the. I don't understand my devices. It's a Siri thing is on. I don't even know how to turn it. Okay. My email, just sidebar, my email address is Rebecca Loteca, because I'm very, I don't understand these devices. I've got my iPad here for people who are online and don't know what's going on. And I think this microphone thing is turned off now. Okay. All right. So Davenlu therapy. I did more therapy, and Davenlu, it was very powerful. So, I have my sort of backup plan if music wasn't going to work out was always psychology. So I loved, looking back and like, wow, I did all this therapy. It's so good. There's so many different ways people can find help. Um, so, okay. Where I am now, I'm still, I love Mu. I remember my first sesshin was with Sonia Sensei, Bowden's sister. And she described the sort of a mind state's the wrong word, but the way to come to practice. It was, she used these words. She said, first of all, your Buddha nature is perfect and whole, and you can come to be in relationship with your Buddha nature. Go to your practice like it's your lover. And I was so relieved to find so much love here, and perfect and whole love. So that's what drew me. I'm where I am now. I'm still questioning. Every day is a gift. There are no guarantees about anything. I've had more near-death, intimate, personal experiences. My husband has almost died twice since we've been married in 3 years, or not 3 years, 13 years. We've been married 13 years. It took a solid 10 years of Zen practice, many sesshins, for me to uproot enough of the obstacles I had around intimacy and relationship before I could commit to a relationship and marriage. My fertility story is a long one and for another talk. But I wanted to say here that if there's anybody struggling with fertility challenges, please know I'm available to you as a resource. I'd be happy to listen, empathize, share, help in any way that would be meaningful. I am so, so grateful to the countless beings here at the Rochester Zen Center and all of the people that were on my path before finding my life here in Rochester and at the Zen Center, including those that have been the source of much pain and suffering, including my parents. I do love them dearly. My mom is, they're both still alive. They were so young when they had me, but their health is failing, and she worries very much about me. She, as I got further into my Zen practice, she, in her aging and her failing health, really clung to her Christian faith, and she just texted me yesterday how worried she is about me. And I just wrote to her, I said, you don't have to grieve. I am strong, my heart is strong, and it's whole. So, I just will close with Rumi. I love Rumi. Love is the water of life. Jump into the water. So if there's anybody who has any questions, I'd be happy to.
I'll go.
Okay, Brenda, you're supposed to say your name.
Hi, this is Brenda. She, her, my pronouns.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We've known each other a long time. And I'm glad we're both still here. And yeah, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, we will.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, it was good. I heard some new things. Some things I didn't know some of the details on. But, oh, Sangha is so good. Just stick around, for God's sake.
Stick around. It's good here.
Stick around, that's all.
Rebecca, I have two questions.
Yeah.
Really quick. First, thank you for sharing with us. That was really powerful. My first question is your mom worried about you because you're not close to your Christian faith? And my second question is, are you close to your sister at all?
My mom is worried that, yeah, she says it that way, that I have not, yeah, whatever you said, that was it. Yeah, but she's also worried that she won't see me in heaven. Because she really feels that if you don't have Jesus Christ as your Savior, you're not going to heaven. So she's worried she's not going to see me again when she dies. Yeah. My sister and I are close. She doesn't live here, but yeah, we're pretty close. Thanks for the question.
Rebecca,
Yeah.
you did a solo performance in Nazareth a week ago, did you not?
I did.
You were stupendous.
Thank you.
You were just stupendous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's see if any of the Zoomers have questions. Jisai should be online. Are you there?
Online. So Ron Mitchell, go ahead and unmute yourself and then mute yourself when you're done. And then for the folks that are in the Zendo, if you can speak up a bit so that we can hear your question. We can hear Rebecca okay, but it's the questions from the Zendo we can't hear. So go ahead, Ron.
So I'm guessing that the Zazen helped with your therapy and music work. Can you share in ways that it helped go along with your therapy and music work?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start with when I first started practicing, I thought, oh, this will really help me, my performances. It'll really help my concentration. Because I was having, I had, concentration breaks. I didn't like, like when I would perform, I didn't like playing from memory because I was afraid of making a mistake. And I was like trying to, I thought the Zazen would help me make less mistakes. And when I played music, that's how it started. But then it became so much more. And I guess rather than going through all of the steps in between, I'll say that just last night I gave a performance with the orchestra, and I, in preparation for this talk, Roshi's advice was make sure you sit a lot. So I did. I sat a lot yesterday, including, right before the performance. And it was powerful. There's something about being so present, so there, like being available for everything that's happening right then. It was very powerful. I mean, I sit, I don't often sit right before a performance, but if it's a big one, I do. And, the more I do, the deeper it is and the more fantastic it is. So I guess that's what I would say about that, Ron. Thanks for your question. Oh, therapy? Yeah, it's good for therapy too. Really good.
Anyone else online have a question or a comment for Rebecca? Okay, I see no one else yet. So back to the Zendo.
Jerry here. Well, I really appreciate your story. It's very similar. I do come from an alcoholic background. The thing I really appreciate is that you recognize the help you've had along the way, even to here. And, even, just to work your way through suffering. And to me, this is one of the two places I go to where I feel freedom, is my meetings and also here, because here, the suffering is, it's more clear. It's not, for me, suppressed as I had the tendency to do. And so I really appreciate what you've said. Thank you very much for helping me.
Looks like we have a question from Wayman. Wayman, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, unmute.
You're unmuted now. Got it.
Okay, yeah. Rebecca, that's absolutely wonderful, incredibly moved by your complete, wholehearted sharing of Did everyone hear that, or did?
Yes, we heard it. Thank you, Wayman.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Are there any more questions here? Any points?
Just an appreciation. My parents struggled as Southern Baptists with my going for Buddhism too. And I suffered with them. I think we all suffer with our parents. Some of us suffer from them. Thank you.
We had a question over here.
Yeah. Hi, this is Luca. Rebecca, I just want to thank you so much for sharing so openly about your upbringing and your assault and your escape mechanisms and just everything. And I really appreciate hearing not only the the courageous vulnerability that you brought, but also how you found support through therapy and body work and art, supplementing your Zen practice. I think my impression, at least, is that there can be a tendency to spiritually bypass a lot of the stuff, the suffering and the traumas that we experience in our lives, and to just sort of bliss out in Zen practice in some way, or to just numb out using it. And I have the strong impression that you did not do that, and you engaged with it in a lot of different ways over the years. And I just really admire that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing more. One more? Okay.
Yeah. Rebecca, this is Mitchell, by the way, and you mentioned at the beginning that you wanted this talk to be called The Layering of Suffering. can you speak a little bit about kind of what it means to like peel back those layers, or especially like in the light of having children of your own, trying to maybe protect them from your own trauma, or I don't know what my just what does that mean for you?
Well, I guess I chose the words layering because, Roshi often would talk about the Zen practices like peeling back the layers of an onion, right? And so I chose that because so with my kids, they do Zazen with me. I mean, it's, my oldest was almost virtually conceived here. We were doing IVF. So they've grown up here. Do I want to protect them? I don't, of course I want to protect them, but I think with the Zen practice, and the Zazen that they do, I think of it as a life skill for them. That it's not a religion really for them. It's not. They're very ooey. I hugged them before I came. I said, I'm doing something hard today, so I need your support. They were so great. They both gave me these big hugs. You're going to be great, Mommy. my Julian said, you'll be better. I was like, better? I was like, he said, better than you think you're going to be. I think of it as a life skill for them right now, and as far as protecting them, God, yeah, I'd love to protect them, but they, it's not possible, really. I think the best we can do, or I feel like the best I can do for them, is that we give them the grace to just be present for them through all the things that they are going through, and then again, the life skill of being able to be in their lives as presently as possible. So, and then the rest of it kind of just takes care of itself. Not everything, but, I'll be the guide as much as I can, and I trust them. I think, and I trust I trust what I found here as a sort of container for it. I don't know if they'll continue to practice, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter right now. It's just they have access to it, and I don't think they'll forget it. It's part of their lives now, right? So I didn't have that. Did I want to try and give them a different life than I did? Yes, I did, but not in every way was it possible. I'm not gonna. I still have a temper. I remember, I can't believe I remember when Julian, my oldest, was not that old, and I got so angry, I hit him. I hit him out of anger, and it was a shock to me, like, oh my God. My parents did hit me. I thought, oh my God, I'm doing what they did. And anyway, it drove me back to the mat. I did more Zazen, and my temper is much better. I asked them. My temper's better? I said, yes, Mommy, you're getting better.
You have such courage.
Okay, so we'll end with the 4 vows.
First, I just want to say thank you, Rebecca, for sharing today and for all you contribute to our Sangha as well. Yeah.